right. All right, good evening, everyone. We'll get going. Can I have the roll call, please?
Gibson. Kapler.
Here.
Kulkarni.
Here.
Ormsby. Satterfield.
Here.
Stoltenberg.
Here.
Wendland.
Here. All right, thank you for the roll call. We had minutes from the meeting of August 21st, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move for approval of the August 21st minutes as submitted.
A second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the meeting of August 21st, 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any opposed? Nope. The minutes are approved. All right, so good evening. Welcome, everyone. We are the Plan and Zone Commission. We are a recommending body appointed by the City Council to review land use, zoning matters, site plans, and such. There's a number of you in the audience tonight, so at the particular point in the case, I will recognize the audience and ask you to participate at the podium to my right and to your left back there. We'd love to have your name and information that you may want to present on a case. And with that, we will get going.
Thank you,
Taylor.
Chairman. First case on the agenda, 2444, has been withdrawn at the request of the applicant, and I will explain in slides for our next case, 2468. This is a zoning ordinance amendment, a text amendment for Chapter 14 of the sign code located in our zoning ordinance. So just a little background between 2444 and 68. Staff initially received an application from Lamar Advertising to amend the sign code with the sole purpose of adding electronic programmable billboards. So that's 2444. Staff took comments from the applicant's proposal and formulated enhanced draft billboard regulation amendments in 2468. To clarify, staff drafted text versus the applicant's drafted text, which is a part of the packet. Lamar Advertising has agreed to withdraw their application at this time for 2444 due to many of their proposals being part of this staff drafted text. So just kind of separating the two proposals. Moving on. Some context about what we're talking about with billboards and sign regulations. The city is proposing a text amendment to the sign ordinance to allow construction of electronic off-premises advertising signs. These are also known commonly as billboards. The proposed amendments will allow electronic billboard conversion and/or construction while also protecting public health, public safety, and welfare, the last of which is included for the purposes of preserving community aesthetics. So this is why we regulate signs in the city. Current sign regulations in Bettendorf allow electronic signs for on-premise advertising, but not for billboards or off-premise advertising. And for the most part, signs cannot be regulated based on their content. This is important. An exception for content-based regulation is determining if a sign is conveying a message related to the principal use on-premise or a use that is off-premise. And this is U.S. Supreme Court rulings. So the location of content and the sign is what separates the definition of on-premise advertising and off-premise advertising. So just kind of a little background to what some of the topics we'll be talking about tonight. The staff analysis. So the main goal for staff in amending regulations for the billboards is to encourage the removal of non-conforming billboards in areas of Bettendorf where they are less desirable and incentivize replacements in areas of Bettendorf where they are compatible with surrounding aesthetics. So we have the comments from Lamar initially to allow for electronic billboards, but also staff looked at our current billboard regulations, and this was the main goal of what we're proposing. In addition to the proposed sign standards summarized on the next slide, staff is proposing a cap and replace permitting system for billboards. This system would cap the number of billboard signs in Bettendorf. We have 19 as of this date, and require the removal of one to add another. This would also apply to the conversion of a static billboard to a digital display billboard. Removal of a non-conforming billboards would be requested first, if available by that owner in this proposal. So moving on, this is part of the packet, but I'll briefly cover kind of the current regulations versus proposed. Staff tweaked some of the allowed zoning districts where off-premise advertising billboards are allowed. Currently, they are allowed in all of our A1 districts, so that's all of our agricultural districts. we're removing that. We are also adding some districts that they weren't allowed in to kind of allow some more areas near our I-74 corridor and some of our other areas of town. Also added some industrial areas that weren't permitted as before. Currently, all overlay districts allow billboards probably. There's some design characteristics required, but they're not prohibited. In the new proposed ordinance, we're prohibiting billboards in our downtown overlay district, proposing. As mentioned, electronic signs for off-premise advertising are currently prohibited. This new proposal would allow with standards and conditions noted in the red line ordinance, draft ordinance. Some of the buffers, so there are buffers from residential zoning districts, buffers from parks, and buffers from existing billboards. Staff tweaked some of these buffers, increasing the billboard distance buffer to 2,000 feet. The residential district buffer was slightly changed so that it's buffered not just from Bettendorf residential districts, but also those in Davenport or adjacent cities in the county zoning. Park buffer was changed so all parks are included in all cities. The number of permitted, there's no limit right now. As mentioned, we're proposing a cap and replace. The brightness level remains mostly the same, except it's been it's been lowered actually from a brightness level at nighttime. This is in research of other best practice ordinances. Davenport has a similar brightness measurement for night, and they just reviewed and updated their billboard ordinance. Dimming technology, none is required. That is being required now, so that's just the actual equipment that would allow all those brightnesses to be monitored and be effective without any manual control. The size right now is kind of, it's based on a formula that's very similar to our on-premise signs, which doesn't really make sense because billboards are really structured off of standardized sizes. They have your large billboard sign, I think there's like a medium and a couple other sizes, but they don't have a large variation of signs. So we're proposing right now that the standard size of 672, which is your standard billboard size, be the maximum allowed sign per side. And that's what's being proposed. And then the existing height in the ordinance is 20 feet. Well, in practicality, that would make all the signs, existing billboard signs that is, almost non-conforming due to their size and their height. So a typical staff conducted research and some of the best practices, and 45 feet is a typical sign height regulation for billboards only. So those are kind of some of the standards and changes. I did want to show you how that kind of translate onto a geographic scale on our current existing areas that where you could build a billboard and where those billboards are to a proposed conforming areas. So on the left side, you have where all in the red are where you could build a billboard. This is kind of an overgeneralization, but it's without some site specifics, but those are areas you could build a billboard. On our right side, we have our new proposed buffering, zoning districts, et cetera, where you could build a billboard. I will note, we did adhere to DOT regulations. They do regulate billboards within a certain 660 feet of either interstates and highways. So you have that in the green on 74 and the purple on US 67. And actually the US 67 billboards are prohibited within their regulated area due to it being designated a US scenic byway. So you have a lot of non-conforming billboards on our US 67 corridor. And then you add in the overlay district that you're proposing to be prohibited. You'll have a significant number of non-conforming billboards already and then also proposed in the city of Bettendorf. And just to note, we do have if we're doing a cap and replace system, we have to note where all of our billboards are and who their ownership is and everything. And this is monitored. The Scott County Assessor's Office actually has really good data because these are all on structures on leased land. So they actually have a parcel record, et cetera. So we do have a list, and that's what we'll build our list off of for record keeping, because we will have to keep record of our for this system to work. I think that's it for this from staff. So for a recommendation, staff recommends approval of an ordinance to amend Chapter 14 sign ordinance, part of the Title 11 of City Code. And I can take any questions.
All right, thank you, Taylor, appreciate it. Mark, anything from your standpoint?
No, just thanks, Taylor, for putting those graphics together. I think the picture really tells the story.
does.
And then you add in the
Yep.
benefit of the marketplace being able to go to digital. I think it's kind of a win-win.
Yep. All right, I should open a public hearing then, so we can address this. Is there proof of publication for case 24-068, Lisa?
Yes.
Thank you, there is. I will then open a public hearing for case 24-068. Oh, and we've got an excited person to talk a little bit. All right,
Excited might be a strong word.
all right.
I'm Molly Overton, and I am the general manager for Lamar Advertising here in the Quad Cities area as well as Dubuque. So our area covers all the way from Dubuque down through here and little bits of Wisconsin as well. I had prepared a little slide, which I'll go through very quickly. I don't want to waste a lot of time, but I kind of wanted people to see the benefit of how digitals could be beneficial to the community as well. So, if you don't mind.
Please do. They told me you were coming with the show, so I'm excited
Here
to see
I
it.
am.
Yeah, all right, good.
Okay. Taylor, are you clicking me through? There we go. Yep. I'm going to give you a brief synopsis on this. Lamar has been around since 1902. It is a large publicly traded company, but we are still run very much as a family business, and each plant runs in its own company in a way. As a general manager, I'm also a vice president of the company, which means I can make decisions for the markets that we're in. So for instance, if there was artwork that was okay in Las Vegas, that we might say, hey, that's definitely not okay for Bettendorf, I can make that call and it won't run here. So it's a really unique structure. But we do have the support and the strength of a big corporate company behind us. We take great pride in partnering with our communities and trying to leave everywhere that we go a little better than we found it. So. Okay, so digital billboards, how they work, just want to be clear, there's no video, there is no motion. They are static images. They run, we have 8 slots on a board and they are 8 seconds long. It's an immediate transfer, so there's not a lot of distraction. There's no motion or anything on them. We always have room available for the community to be able to use the billboards. So if the city said, hey, we have a festival coming up that we really would like to run, we're able to do that. Or if there's emergencies in the area, dangerous weather that we want to get out there, things like that, y'all are able to call us and we can do that immediately. We can literally have something running on the billboards in your area within 15 minutes. So that's one of the things that we like to do. In Iowa, there are 77 digitals. 40 are in Des Moines, 16 in Cedar Rapids, and 21 here between Dubuque and Quad Cities. I need my glasses. Oh, this is about the OSHA. Howie, can you see that good?
What's that?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, we use our own. So we have an operations staff. Howie Lincoln is our operations manager. And we have an operations staff that does all of the building and installing of them. So we don't have people coming in. We have people that are trained under all of the OSHA safety regulations and all of that. So it's a very secure and safe process going up. Maintenance requirements. These are things where we just want y'all to know that we maintain them at all times. There's twice a year, there's a summer prep and a winter. The signs are kept clean, they're washed twice a year. If there is a module that goes out, our ops guys go out and fix it. We have 48 hours to get things repaired. So they always look nice. Responsible lighting practices, y'all may have seen some of this. They have been going around and changing all of our lights on our traditional billboards to LEDs. We're 85% complete with that in our market. That helps, that's reduced our our cost by 73%, the consumption. And our digitals run at 80% during the day and down to 3% at night. So we do it we're very careful with that to keep lighting practices good. Here's the fun stuff. Okay, 83% of the Dubuque and Quad Cities advertisers are local. We don't get a whole lot of national. This is all stuff that benefits local customers. It gives them the ability to have as many different pieces of artwork to run as they want. It can change as much and as often as they like. It's just a great way for local businesses to be able to get multiple messages out there. Okay. We help maintain safety in the communities by displaying wanted criminals on our digitals for public awareness. These things happen automatically. If there is a criminal in the area that's coming through the FBI and even through some of the state agencies, those are loaded automatically. They have access to it, and those are loaded automatically. So if it's something that's relevant to the area, those are loaded automatically and happen, which just helps people know things that are going on in the area and to be on the lookout. Amber alerts are automated as well in the area that they are relevant to. We used to have to do them manually, but now it's fully automated. That's one of the, if there's one in the local area, we will actually preempt, if there was a child that was missing from Bettendorf, we would preempt existing customers that were on there to get that out. We're able to do that for safety as well. These are just some examples of where the FBI has used the billboards. This, of course, is the Boston Marathon bomber, but those went up immediately. And they have, on the other screen, there was one that said 57 people had been captured based solely off of the billboards, and there's actually a little link to it. That was actually from 6 years ago, that article was, but there've been more than that now. But that link was from an interview they did 6 years ago. We also donate millions of dollars worth of space to public service campaigns. We've had a great time with Big Brothers Big Sisters here this year. That's some of their artwork that we did, and I think there's a video from Kylie of that that's just a minute or so long.
Our national Big Brothers Big Sisters
hear it.
launched a partnership with Lamar Advertising. If we wanted to get involved, we just had to reach out to our local Lamar branch. We did, and the next day they were in our office hearing about our mission of youth mentoring and inspiring potential in local youth, and they were on board. They offered us a very generous partnership that saves us thousands of dollars in marketing. And these billboards are really important to us. You may have heard it takes 8 to 9 encounters with a brand before an individual takes action, whether that be purchasing a product, visiting a location, or in our case, recruiting bigs to match with the youth in our community that need the extra support. We also hope to recruit new donors and sponsors. So Lamar billboards are extremely important to us because they serve as another avenue for us to get our mission in front of the eyes of our community. Aside from the logistics of billboards, Lamar is a fantastic company to work with. They go above and beyond for their clients. Tanner actually became a big within a week of our first meeting. Their entire office got together and purchased holiday gifts for littles in our program and their families who needed help around the holiday time. And Molly just went over the edge for us a little over a month ago. So she rappelled 11 stories down the side of a building and was actually one of our top fundraisers. So Lamar definitely cares about the mission and the heart of their clients, and they put a lot of creativity into what they do to make it an easy process for their clients.
I am the second of 4 children, and my
Local organizations like the Red Cross and FEMA as well, we're able to help. Whenever there's any kind of natural disasters, we're able to get information out for them as well. The next one's just going to be similar, FEMA. And then we do get to feature the human interest stories if there's fundraisers. This was a little girl up in Dubuque, actually, that we were able to do to help for fundraising for treatments. So those are things that we're able to do as well. And it's a win-win for the community. It's a way for y'all to be able to communicate, for the city to be able to communicate with the community as you need to. The community allows Lamar the ability to work with them to provide public service messaging, and for local businesses, it gives area businesses access to high-value, state-of-the-art marketing that they can change on a dime. So.
Okay, don't go anywhere. We might have a couple of questions for you. So, one of the things you mentioned about the maintenance and repair, I'm curious, are you able to identify or diagnose an issue with a sign remotely?
Yes, come here, Howie. He's my expert on this, but yes, we are. We actually have a network operating center down in Baton Rouge that can see all of our digitals.
Yeah, so my name's Howie. I'm the operations manager of Dubuque and Quad Cities. So your question there for maintenance and tickets and everything like that. Down in our corporate office in Baton Rouge, we have a screen, a lot like this, that all of our digitals throughout Lamar Land, we call it, are rotating down. Those people there, they're in charge of just watching that screen and making sure that all of our digitals are up and running like they should. And if they see a problem, they open a ticket, it's sent an email to me and then my crew, and then I will choose who I need that's closest to that area to go ahead and go fix it.
Okay, great, thanks. In the news, we've got blowing up radios and pagers and things. Is there any fire risk with these? I mean, it's not like a Tesla with a big battery or something, but is there any issue about that?
So, no, as that one slide was saying about OSHA, we have to go through all of our regular permits, everything like that to get the proper wiring. They're all, depending on where locations are at, we have to work with the power company to get the right phase of power to our sign, to our structure, so everything is done kosher.
Any special grounding or anything like lightning effects and things like that?
Every one of our structures is grounded.
Okay, great. So Amber Alert you mentioned, so how are you notified that there's an Amber Alert? Is that something the city or the state does? How do you get notified?
Yeah, the state typically does those, and they will automatically, like I said, we have a slot that is set aside for EAS for emergency things, whether it's from the FBI or an Amber Alert. Those will automatically start running on the board coming from whatever governing body is putting those out. But we will get an email from corporate saying, hey, this is being run in your area, so that we're aware. Because sometimes we'll get calls about it. People will, it's an interesting process, but that's automatically done by the governing bodies. They have access to be able to do that in our EAS slots.
Great, thank you. Anyone else in the audience? Were you done with your presentation before?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience with regard to this matter? All right, we'll come back to the commission. Oh, I guess I closed my public hearing first. I will close the public hearing for case 24-068 and then come back to the commission for questions or comments regarding this matter.
I have a question. Taylor, I know there's information in the proposed ordinance about electronic billboards on top of a building. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how that might play out?
So the height requirement of 45 feet was really borrowed from the current ordinance requirements. As read, it basically says the maximum height, if on top of a building, no higher than the top parapet of that building.
Okay.
It doesn't specify. It's something on your request, maybe we could
Okay.
add.
You
some
have
more
a max for square footage for a sign.
That's square footage of the sign, but not
So
below.
it can't exceed the top of the building.
So the sign, the total square footage of a sign is the amount of signage you
Right,
have.
but the height.
The height is one bulk standard, and then you also have the structure it's on. So typically, these are standalone structures.
Okay.
We could,
So could we mount a 600 and however many square foot sign on top of a 5-story building and extend the height of that building by 45 feet.
That's something we could check for. This is what we want, actually, is comments to make sure we have all the loopholes covered. We could probably make sure that's specifically addressed.
I just want to be sure we get what you want.
I actually had a similar question, because when I read through the code revisions, and it was in section 018, height of 45 feet for a separate structure or when attached to a building 4 feet above the roof parapet line. So, and then in the old code, it said whichever is lower should be added. And that was at the 20 foot, but that whichever is lower is not in the
Probably could.
revised language.
We can add that for sure.
So if the intent is 45 feet, they could
that's the-
technically get
that's the intent, yeah.
49 going the
Right.
other route.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's how I'm looking. We have,
When we're talking 45 feet in our industry, what we're referring to as a 45-foot haggle, which is height above ground level. That's where our 45 comes from, is a 45-foot haggle, which is just
okay.
And that's to the top of the sign, not to the bottom of the sign.
That's correct.
So if we're on a 100-foot building, you'd be okay with 45 feet above haggle?
No,
Above the base
No.
of the building.
We would never put a digital on top of a building. But
Okay.
we would never do that. So it's height of, just from where the ground is to the top of the sign is 45 feet.
Haggle, I learned a new term tonight, okay. I always thought haggle was something else.
sounds
to
like
make a
Harry
deal, but-
Potter.
Okay, I like that, yeah. Yeah, but I picked up the same question, so
Well,
it just
thank-
seemed like it was a little,
Given your discussion, I think it'd be adding that language about,
whichever is lower.
correct. I
Yeah.
think that's, the intent is for no higher than
Yeah.
45 feet. I guess you could have a 10-foot building and do the math, but
And
that's
that
really not
shows
the
up
intent of this ordinance, yeah.
In 2 or 3 different places in the ordinance, I think 018, 019, and 1114-8 or something, so there's 3 or 4 references
I think
to it.
staff will even probably decide if we even want to have them on top of buildings. I'm not sure that was ever our intent.
Yeah, I don't think that
I
was
don't
the
think we were
intent.
envisioning that as part of our
And
landscape.
then maybe that's something you want
And
to
so I
include.
think we may just sharpen our pencil on that one a little bit.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
I have one other question. We have a digital sign at the corner of Devil's Glen and Middle Road.
We do not.
Yes, we do.
We do.
On Middle Road in Devil's Glen,
There's a digital sign, Devil's Glen and.
By the oil change
right.
place.
that is a static.
It's
billboard.
static.
It's electronic, but it doesn't change.
No, it's a
No,
static
it's
wrap
static
sign.
billboard.
They were trying to put in years ago a digital sign there, and that got reversed.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, it must be
It
really
did, I
good,
remember
because it
that.
looks
Yeah.
electronic to me.
No, it's, that's
Just
just a,
semantics here.
Maybe
so.
someone goes up there and switches it out
They do do
frequently,
that.
and
That's
that
exactly what that
helps me
happens.
have that impression. Okay, thank
It's not
you.
every 8 seconds, it's not every 8 seconds, so,
That's true.
yeah. Others on the commission, Scott, did you have something? Would you
Yeah,
finish
just-
yours?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
A couple things. Well, let's talk about that sign first. That sign's two-sided. So in your count, is that one sign or two?
That'd be one structure, so
Okay.
we'd do it by structure. And
So
then,
same.
and then per side would be 672, so that's like your standard size.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
right, same question. There's one on State Street down by 23rd, I believe, which is the same sizes, but they're side by side. So it'd be like taking the one up on
winged or-
Middle Road or
So,
Devil's Glen and Middle Road and
and to
opening it
clarify,
up.
the intent is for it to be two-sided and then one per face. A lot of the billboards, I will note, as I kind of noted before, on 67 corridor have been built over many years. So they aren't necessarily typical standard sizes anymore. I think I'm picturing the one you were talking about near Manats, I believe.
So if that one's redone,
We would intend it for it to be, yeah, exactly.
672 square feet, no higher than 45 feet.
And this would not require the removal of, so I should note this, this is not requiring the removal of non-conforming billboards unless that cap and replace would require for a new sign. So that person would have to get a credit to find a sign to remove. So they will still have non-conforming billboards, just as we did, when the last sign ordinance was probably written as well.
So regarding all of those non-conforming, which are almost all of them,
Yep.
if they want to convert one of those to digital,
They wouldn't be able to but they would have to conform to the code being proposed, correct?
Those wouldn't be eligible for conversion.
they would be eligible.
They would not.
They would not be.
Based on their location, I mentioned that along 67, that's all a scenic byway. So if you have to get out of that area, and then you'd have to meet our location buffer codes, which is that area is in red. And then you'd have to meet our bulk standard, our standards, our specifications for height and total signage, square footage. So there's many steps to this. There are areas where you can be compliant with our code and be compliant with the Iowa DOT code, but those are areas along I-80 and I-74. Those are the only other interstate or U.S. highway in Bettendorf.
So for practical purposes, almost every one of the existing signs are almost non-conforming.
Correct.
So nothing can be done with those. So if Lamar, as an example, wants to put up another billboard, they're going somewhere brand new that they've never been before
Correct.
and putting one up. Okay.
But
And then a sign would come down somewhere else.
And a sign would come down.
that is the big
Okay.
caveat, and and I'll know other cities have implemented a cap and replace system. Cedar Rapids has a cap and replace system. They've had that for some years. So this isn't necessarily a novel concept. We really kind of borrowed a lot of language from their ordinance, actually.
And then if you look at the availability of land currently under our current ordinance versus what we would go to, I think if you see that as an exposure, you would say we are less exposed under the new code than the old code.
There will be more spaces rezoned to commercial, or likely more commercial, but could be industrial. So this area, the map on the right, will actually expand for conforming areas in the future. All the agricultural areas, those are being removed, but as we grow, we're gonna have more commercial areas. That's the theory behind it.
Thank you.
Yep,
Each one of the pins represents a sign location
correct.
that's going to have to be removed if replaced.
That's not entirely correct. So by the proposed ordinance, if that sign owner it has non-conforming signs, we are proposing that they prioritize those removals first. If they don't have any non-conforming signs, they could pick a different sign. But
Yeah,
yes.
I'm not saying they got to be removed. I'm just saying that if there's a replacement of an electronic sign
Correct.
anywhere, it's one of those pins
One to
is
one.
pulled out.
1-to-1. Yep. Okay.
It looks like there's a heck of a lot less space available to put a sign based on the new map.
Correct.
'Cause it's
But
only
as
red,
mentioned,
right?
there will
Right
be
now.
more space once more rezonings will be, once all this area that was agricultural is going to be rezoned in the future. As you'll see, going back to our future land use map and et cetera, there's a lot of commercial shown in that map, envisioned. So you kind of have to think a little outward right now, yes, but we'll have rezonings, which will expand to all those C1s or C2, C3, C6, C7 districts. Probably not a lot of industrial, but also those are
So
compliant
the one thing
districts.
that's static, the map is dynamic because rezoning's development occurs, and we want to respond to that, and the marketplace is going to need signs, they're going to need all kinds of things.
Yep.
So the map will change. But the one thing that's static is the 19. So now we have an inventory, we have a level set, we know where we're at. Maybe someday we think we need more, but we know where we're at now, so you kind of have a one-for-one going forward.
Okay.
Taylor, the IDOT zone
Correct.
along I-80, that's not affected by this ordinance?
So they have their own standalone ordinance. They would have it even if there was a no city zoning or if it was in the county. They still enforce their rules, so we can't
Override them?
Yeah, we can't preempt them.
Okay,
They also can't preempt our rules, so you have to basically align the rules together. And their specifications are it has to be a commercial use or industrial use within a certain amount of feet, or have commercial zoning if they're zoning in that area. And they have jurisdiction 660 feet, it's a buffer, 660 feet from the right-of-way. So that's why it kind of goes up. It's not a consistent, because you have different right-of-way lines all over the place from on-ramps and such. So you'll see that where there's overlays of the green over the red, that's where areas that our rules would allow a sign, as would their rules. Now, there's definitely site-specific regulations that we aren't getting into as far as sightline distances, et cetera, but that's on a permit basis. That's when you review at a permit
Yep.
level. Yep, same for the DOT, yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple. One, and it's on letter K, future amendments in the new draft. It says, and I'm trying to see if I can see what page it's on in the attachment. I don't see a page there.
35.
Maybe I can find it.
Yeah, it's a ways back. I didn't have my printout. But it says, future amendments, the city reserves the right to amend the regulations that apply to digital display billboard signs for which a permit was issued after January 1, 2025. I'm just not following exactly what you guys are saying there. If you could put that in non-legal ease for me, that would be great.
It's on the very
So-
last page.
The purpose of that insert really is for really specific to the digital display billboards, say the brightness configuration, things that are able to change on those billboards. If the city were to come back and decide maybe we can make it brighter, not as bright, that we could enforce those and they would not then be grandfathered in to have the old brightness level. That's just an example. It's kind of just inserted just as a protection. Cedar Rapids I talked with their staff on this and how they developed it, and it's just kind of we have never had digital billboards in the city, so we're proposing regulations that we might not foresee every aspect of it. That's kind of what
We might look to clarify that
We can
language.
clarify it,
I
yeah.
do think it's a little
I couldn't quite
confusing.
grasp
So,
what
yeah,
was
so
being
we
said.
will, I
Yeah.
think we'll take that as a good note to make sure that it's written in a clear manner.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it really is right now.
Yep, you got that one then?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you, that was one. And then I'm still trying to practically understand the concept of the tradable credit. So an owner of a credit can transfer the right to another party, and my note then was, for how long? How long does that right exist? And there was some references to 5 years that you keep track of things, but is that right? Does that last for an indefinite period of time?
So the 5 years is more if there hasn't been any claim to that, which you would think would happen, but.
They took one out, they get a credit, now they've got a credit, which is
Correct.
negotiable, apparently. I can sell it to Chris or.
If someone came
another-
in for a permit for a new billboard, they would have to show that they have removed a billboard or are going to remove a billboard. If they didn't have a billboard to remove, they have to show that's what the transfer is.
And
It
that
has to
creates a
be-
credit
Yeah, correct.
that exists now on a piece of paper because of that.
But it has
So
to be like,
does it have a life? You know, how long does that,
the 5 years is more for if a billboard is removed from unknowingly from construction, et cetera, and it's just not tracked. I don't think we'll have that problem in Bettendorf because we have so few billboards. But when you have a city with 200 billboards, that's when it becomes more of a issue.
I just started thinking of the mechanics of it. How long does it last? Is it transferable from Chris to Scott?
We
Is
can
it
clarify,
one-
we can look into make that a little clearer,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that I think needed just a little extra work. That's all I had for questions. Anyone else? All right. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number 24-068, the ordinance, subject to the comments we've made today.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. to approve case 24-068. Can I have a roll call on the motion, please?
Kepler,
Yes.
Kulkarni,
Yeah.
Satterfield,
Yes.
Stoltenberg,
Yes.
Wendland.
Yes. Okay, thank you. That case is recommended for approval. All right. Next one.
Thank you, Chairman. Our next case on the agenda, case 2466. This is a site development plan for 2801 Depot Street. The applicant is Legacy Marine. The proposed development includes an access drive off of Depot Street, a parking area, an access ramp over the city's levee, and a floating dock. So the uses here proposed include facilities for launching, mooring, docking, unloading, servicing riverboats and towboats along the Bettendorf shoreline. Existing surrounding uses include the cargo grain terminal to the west, Lafarge Wholesome Cement Terminal to the east, Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad, and then the Mississippi River Trail, bike ped trail, also surrounds the western boundary, and the northern goes through the northern right-of-way on this property. Taking a look at our future land use map and zoning, the future land use map designates the area as industrial. The current zoning is heavy industrial I3. I will also note most of the property is in our downtown master plan overlay district. The proposed use of, as described in the previous slide, is not specifically defined in our code. We don't really have a marine use, but staff in analyzing this contends it's very comparable to a general industry use, which would be permitted in the I3 district, which is our heaviest district. So staff contends it's a permitted use in the I3 district. The downtown master plan identifies this area of the plan as in the industrial district, and one of their objectives are infill industrial development. So this is addressing and achieving that objective. Just noting the floodplain, this property is protected by the core accredited levee, so it is outside of the regulated floodplain, protected 100-year regulated floodplain, and you can see that area there all protected. So taking a look at the site plan, the site will be accessed from Depot Street as mentioned, and a paved parking and onshore maintenance area is proposed near the levee. The applicant under the supervision of Corps and the city will construct the ramp over the levee. A floating dock will then be accessible via the ramp, allowing the mooring of those barges and boats. Facilities, so as sewer facilities, bathrooms, et cetera, located on the towboats will be used by the employees on this site, so there's no sanitary being extended to the site. And then water and electric utilities are shown to be installed at the site. So you have a water line going to that parking paved area, and then electric and transformer being extended. This project has undergone a lot of reviews. So this is kind of the last step before permits get issued. To note, so the Army Corps of Engineers has issued their reviews and permits for construction civil project on the levee. They've also issued their reviews for I forget what 4 and 4. They have multiple review steps. The Iowa DNR also has reviewed for endangered species. The mussels were identified here, so they were moved from the dock area. So that's all been done. DNR has also done a national flood insurance policy compliance letter concurrent with the city, and then our local floodplain development review also was conducted. So all these reviews have been done, and there's conditions, insurances built into these permits, and those are all part of the packet. This is just the final step, the site plan, and then, of course, any relative building permits, which will be just a few. There's not actually structures being done here. Having said that, staff is recommending approval of the site development plan, adding one condition relative to the floodplain. Just that the company shall remove any non-affixed equipment from the docks to the dry side of the levee when any flood warnings or floods are occurring. I can take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Taylor. Mark, anything from staff? Nope. Okay. Questions and comments from the commission, please.
I do have one question, Taylor. The recreational trail goes right by there. And it's a very overgrown property. And this is great because it's not disturbing the property at all. But that ingress and egress area, if it's not cleared out well, creates a hazard for people on that trail.
Line of sight you're talking about.
Right, line of sight.
Yeah.
When vehicles are entering and exiting. So I don't know how that can be addressed. Maybe it is being addressed.
Yeah, and I think noted in the staff report, the curb cut onto Depot Street, well, to the Mississippi River Trail and on Depot Street would be inspected by staff for compliance for safe sight lines. So those aren't really evident in this
Yeah,
plan,
I
but
mean, just
Brent, we want that.
from a safety standpoint, and
We have code requirements for vegetation within X number of feet for, and
people,
knowing how much clearing they're gonna have to do to access the property, that should not be any concern.
okay, people fly by there on their bikes, and that, they have to have time to stop.
And I assume, Brent can speak for this, but I'm assuming we'll put bike signs as far as, do we have those on our other curb cuts as well, I believe?
Generally speaking, only a larger commercial with the amount of, very small amount of traffic coming in and out of here, we may or may not, but if it looks like we're gonna have an issue, we can put the yield signs up. They're not legally enforceable, but they do bring attention.
Yeah, just that there's a curb cut there.
Is there any seasonality to this? So when the river freezes over, are the floating barges still there?
That would be a question for the applicant.
Well, that's me. They'll stay there in the winter.
Okay. Anyone else?
I had one question. What is your definition of a fixed equipment? It's tied together. The barges are tied with cables or ropes. Does that make them affixed? And
That comment really is from the DNR.
Okay.
For us from a floodplain regulatory aspect. So anything that would be not affixed is determined that could float away, basically. So I'll leave it at that.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience with regard to this matter? Said your piece. All right, we'll come back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move for approval of case 24-066, site development plan, subject to staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve case 24-066, site development plan for 2801 Depot Street. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Same sign. Thank you. 24-066 is recommended for approval. And now we get a seat change, and here's Greg.
Mr. Chairman, we have a replating, which is Hope Heights, 3rd edition. It's at Hopewell Avenue and Criswell Street. This is the area here. You're looking at Hopewell, Criswell right here. This is the area which is bounded here within the subdivision. And the applicant is Silverthorne Home Builders. What they're doing is essentially trying to replat this ground. The 2nd edition never got recorded. The 1st edition did. The area is mixed transitional, and as you can see, civic, public, semi-public to the north, and then you have the same mixed transitional to the west and east of the site. Neighborhood light to the south. The zoning is pretty much ag all the way around except for this area here, R3, and then R2 where the church school is going in. And then you do have some R2 further to the south. This was originally platted as Hope Heights 1st edition. The total area is 17.75 acres. That has not changed for the 2nd or the 3rd edition. What has changed is these lot configurations. They've shifted between single-family, duplex, and townhouse throughout. This plat here did the dedication of the 17-foot right-of-way that is required for Criswell Street. So the dedication of that right-of-way occurred during the first edition platting. Second edition, the changes that occurred, again, were just some lot configurations, but the stormwater design changed dramatically, and there's the placement of these two detention basins here. This is also outlotted, this area right here, for future development. And you had some lots, again, change on this from lots 23, 26, and then 27 and 28 became different in terms of their designation. But again, the second edition was not recorded as a plat. The third edition still does meet the conditional zoning requirement that was here. There was a concept plan, and this materially follows it. What we see is an emergence more of single-family housing here. All townhouse developments in this area in the northeast portion of the subdivision shall require future site development plan, and then Outlot C again is reserved for that future development. The changes from the second edition to this one is that lots 11 through 28 of that second edition, of the first edition, are replacing lots 11 through 49, which were townhouse lots in the second edition. So single families coming in and usurping these townhouse lots. The other changes at lots 29 through 39 are going to be the designation of these lots in terms of numbering, and you're going to see these remain as townhouses. Some of these lot sizes have changed, but the lot minimum size in terms of width for these lots is 63 feet. The requirement is 60 feet, and all of these lots meet the single-family designation for square footage requirements. Utilities are pretty much in the same areas staged around the site as water and gas will come from the north along Hopewell. Electrical service will come from the west side of Criswell. There is some change, as I mentioned, in stormwater infrastructure. One of the conditions, though, that is being considered is either for a lift station to help serve some of this area, or there will be a connection to adjoining properties, and that'll be up to the parties that are here and other parties outside the subdivision, as well as city staff in making that determination. The only access will be from Woody Creek Lane here, and then we have also Sonderly Drive here. There will be no direct access from any of these lots individually, either onto Hopewell or onto Criswell. There will be turnarounds here as well as here for traffic, for city traffic that is providing city service to the subdivision. 5-foot sidewalks will be commonplace. They'll be on the north side of the subdivision. There will also be within the interior, and there is no sidewalk planned at this time for Criswell as it is not completely constructed. And then stormwater detention, as I mentioned earlier, shall be in these two detention basins here for the subdivision as it is proposed at present. Lots 29 through 34 will have a landscape berm 35 feet here. There will be a 50-foot wide setback here for lots 35 through 39 for any landscaping. And then any of these lots here that are double frontage lots, there are certain standards that if they want to comply with those, or I should say work with those standards for either screening using landscaping or fencing, we have two different mechanisms for that. Staff, in looking at this proposal, believes that it meets comprehensive plan goal D for providing housing options and reinvesting in existing neighborhoods, and goal G, attracting young people. As well, we would just state simply that at some point in the future when the townhouses do become presented or going to be built, they have to go through a site development plan process before they can receive any building permits. Staff recommends approval of this proposal. I would ask, are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Greg. Mark, anything from staff? No? Questions and comments from the commission, please? I'll say you had me a little confused because I was trying to first plat, second plat, third plat. They're all basically the same geography, right?
They're all 17.75 acres, and that's for the entirety. They just are changing the lot designations, and they're changing the dimensioning of the lots to accommodate more single-family housing. That's basically what this boils down
So
to.
just for my own edification, why is that another plat versus a replat?
Same thing, same thing.
Same thing? Okay.
Same word, different.
I kept looking for the differences in the area, and I thought, well, usually it's phase, or first edition, second edition, third edition, and here it was first edition, second edition.
Yeah, so they were both replats.
Okay.
Anytime you modify an existing
And no-
lot, it's technically a replat.
No impact of the unrecorded second plat, okay. That takes care of me. Anybody else? Nope, anyone in the audience with regard to this matter? All right, back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move for approval of case 24-063, subject to staff recommendations.
Okay,
I'll second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve case 24-063, final plat of Hopewell Heights, third edition. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Case 24-063 is recommended for approval, which would take us to commission update.
No update this time. We've had a
No
light meeting
update.
agenda, so we're good.
All right. Well, is there anything else for the good of the order?
I just think we had a very interesting mix of topics
Yeah.
for our discussion tonight. Kind of all over the board, lots
I
of
thought it was
things
kind of
happening.
illuminating, actually. Yeah, bad joke, okay.
welcome.
We're adjourned, thank you.